Hi there, welcome to the NestPod, which is our weekly podcast. And today it's just a bit of a reintroduction, really, because it's been a while since I recorded a podcast. So I wanted to go back to the beginning, which is why I started my business and the story, which was an absolute hair raiser, um, and what kind of gave me the idea and the light bulb that this was so needed. So to cut a long story short, because there was lots of things that happened in this story and lots of emotions that went on. But it was 6 years ago, and I went to a party in the park here in Sydney with my two young children. So my son, my youngest, was just a baby. He was maybe just one, and my eldest was 3.5. And we were at this party. It was a barbecue for a friend of ours, 1 year olds, and there was lots and lots of people there. And there was a lady standing next to me, which I didn't know. Like, I didn't know her. She was a friend. She was part of the barbecue, but I didn't know who she was. And we were just halfway through this barbecue. It was all fine. And then all of a sudden, I saw her stand up and just start banging her baby on the back, and like frantic, like she was silent, but she was just banging this baby on the back, and she looked absolutely stricken. And I just ran over. If you're a nurse that's worked in a hospital, you will understand this, but we tend to run towards danger, and run towards situations that other people would like to run away from. And it's just something we do. We hear the red, we hear a siren go off, we want to run towards it. um for better or for worse. Anyway, I ran over, and I could see very quickly that this young baby, he was only 6 months old, was actually choking. And um, she had changed color. She was already very, very pale, if not slightly tinged bluey gray. And quite clearly could see that she was not breathing. But she still had her eyes open, and she looked very stricken because this had literally just happened. Um, so I just grabbed her, and I sat down on the floor with on my knees, and I just put her over my lap, and I started the first aid for choking, which is the 5 back slaps. Now, I did them pretty hard. You have to with back slaps. Um, your adrenaline's pumping as well. So the mum just kind of stood back and sort of just watched, let me do it. And I did 5 back slaps. In between each back slap, I turned her head slightly, just to check that it hadn't come up into her mouth. And it hadn't. And we were getting towards the fifth back slap, and she was starting to go kind of a little bit floppy. It was just horrible. I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm gonna have to do chest thrusts in a second. And you don't want to have to do chest thrusts, really, because it's like one step away from CPR. It feels like you're doing CPR. It's just so much more invasive, so much more painful, which at that point honestly doesn't really matter, because the baby is struggling, can't breathe. um and yeah, it was horrible. And what I did note, though, because obviously I taught a lot of first aid and things like that in the past, and what I did note was, when I turned her head in between each back slap, it was actually just her head that turned, whereas when you're doing it in practice with mannequins, the whole baby goes, the whole mannequin turns. So that was something to note. Anyway, we got to the fifth back slap, and I was just about to turn her, and I heard she just did this massive vomit and just started writhing and screaming. And that was the best noise ever, because that's what you want. You want them to start going absolutely nuts at you and just going bananas. So she did that, which was absolutely great. The mum just grabbed her and was just shouting over and over again, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. And at that point, I didn't have the business, obviously, but that was the catalyst that made me think, this is needed. This is what we need to do. So yeah, it was pretty scary. The mum, um, we all just kind of were quite quiet after. My son had watched the whole thing, so I went off to the toilets after, because honestly I was shaking. I had to sit on my hands afterwards because I was shaking so much. The adrenaline, I don't know if you've ever had that situation where your adrenaline kicks in and you're like laser focused at the time, but after the event you really, it's like you need like a debrief. And it was pretty full on, because I really thought we were going to have to do, a full-on chest thrusts, get the ambulance. Someone was already calling the ambulance, which I would if you have to do choking first aid on a child, um, and something is stuck like that, then I think an ambulance needs to be on its way. In the guidelines, it actually says to do one set of first aid, like five back slaps, five chest thrusts, and then reassess before you call the ambulance. But I would call the ambulance straight away if you're having to do that. So yeah, it was not very nice. Now, that's where I already had a bit of a bee in my bonnet about wanting to have a business and be self-employed. And as a nurse, it's kind of always tricky to know what you can do with that, really. I didn't want to do anything away from nursing particularly, although I was open to ideas. But that was when I was like, God, I've got this like years of allergy nursing in children background as well, and that's something that no one else is doing, and still no one else is doing that. I mean, other providers might teach you how to deal with an allergic reaction because it is some basic first aid, but we go deep into the, how do you introduce common allergy foods. We've got all the courses and the freebies into, literally holding your hand from the very beginning of how to do this, and we've branched out into sort of safe weaning prep as well. So yeah, it's pretty comprehensive what we teach now because of that story. Then fast forward, I think it was 2 years, and I was working at the hospital. And bearing in mind, most people will go their whole lives without having to administer first aid, or administer choking first aid on a baby or anyone. And just because I'm a pediatric nurse, it doesn't mean that I have ever done this in the hospital, because I haven't. Because when they come to hospital, it's after the event, it's not the actual time when they choke. So I hadn't actually done this in real life before, as most people haven't. And if you have, you're usually a mum, to be honest, of a young child, because that's when it happens. And as much as, I'm all for, talking to mums and dads and saying that, dads do equal things. Absolutely, they do. My husband is an equal partner in this family. But at the end of the day, when I look through my analytics for the Nest, 98% of the time, it is the mums that are consuming this information, acting on this information, and booking the classes. Okay, so that is why sometimes my message is to mums, essential mums weaning bundle. It's not because I'm sexist, and it's not because I don't think dads pull their weight. It's just that the mums seek out the information, and often it is the mums that's at home dealing with this. So I love all your husbands. I'm absolutely sure that everyone, does their bit. That's not the case. It's just that mums are generally, a lot of the time, the ones that seek out this information and will end up doing the first aid at home. So fast forward 2 years, my husband phoned me at the hospital and said, I'm actually around. Are you free for lunch? Let's go for lunch in my lunch hour. So I actually was, and he came and picked me up in his truck. Now he's a tradie, so he's got a really tall truck with ladders on the top. So normally we would have gone to the local shopping centre, which is just up the road, but he couldn't get into there because he had the ladders on the top. So we ended up going down the road towards the beach, and we ended up, he said, oh, why don't we go to Chargrill Charlie's? And I'm like, that's cool, because you've got all the nice chicken and the salads. And I thought that sounds really nice. So we pulled up near Chargrill Charlie's, and there was a massive ute-sized car park right out the front. So this is where my woo-woo comes in, where I think, actually, we were in the right place at the right time. We were supposed to be there at that time, and that's just how it is. That's what I believe. So we parked up outside, went in, got our order, sat down, was eating, and then again, out of the corner of my eye, I see this mum um, suddenly stand up, and she just held up her 18-month-old. She just held her up in the air and was like looking at her, and this girl was gagging continuously, was starting to change color, was not getting any air through, and was drooling. Okay, so classic choking signs. This shocked look. Had she been a little bit younger, she would have started to change color quicker, right? So the mum was just holding her up. And again, I just ran over to her and I said to my husband, call an ambulance, because we were right there near the children's hospital. Bearing in mind, I was at work just up the road. So I'm like, I don't want to take any chances. I don't care if the guidelines say you should wait until you've done one round of first aid. I actually, in my mind, I teach, if you're having to do first aid for choking, call an ambulance. So I grabbed the girl, I sat down on the chair, I put her over my lap, I got that position, head slightly down, and I gave 5 back slaps. Again, when I turned her head, each time to see if there was anything in anything that had come up in her mouth. Just her head went, not her whole body. And again, I got up to the 5th back slap, and I was like, but I could hear her. She had a little bit more air moving than the baby did previously. So I could hear her every now and again trying to gasp, and she was getting a little bit of air in. And you know what? That's better than nothing, but it's still not ideal. And I could not stop doing the first aid. So my husband rang. Unfortunately for him, he panicked a little bit and called 911. And just so you know, in Australia, that goes through to the Australian Emergency Services as well. So I think we watch a little bit too much American TV. Um, so anyway, on the 5th back blow, I turned her head and she was still quiet, but she was chewing. She had brought up everything that was stuck in her throat, which was a load of chicken and chips all congealed. She'd brought it up into her mouth and was chewing it. And then suddenly she arched her back. She got like strength because she'd gone a little bit floppy. And she's chewing and chewing, and she arched her back and she just screamed at me, which again was the best thing ever. Now, when you're doing the first aid, it is sore. So when they come to, when they um, inevitably, most of the time, dislodge whatever's there, then they do get angry at you, but that's fine. We can take that. So that mum, again, she clearly just didn't know what to do, or she panicked. I don't know. But in that moment, I wanted to empower her because she was just like, "Oh my God, thank you so much, thank you so much." I'm like, "That's okay," and she's like, I wasn't sure what to do, so I gave her my card. Now I said to her, please don't think this is me trying to sell you anything, because for God's sake, that is not the case at all. But please do my course. Like, I will give you free access, or come along to one of my public courses, or whatever you need to do. Please come along and like just learn what you need to do. I don't, don't want to panic when that kind of thing happens. You want to know what to do, how to call for help, and all that kind of thing. So I did give her my number, and she did contact me, and she did say thank you, which she didn't need to. It's fine, but she never actually logged into the course. And I was like, please do. But anyway, she didn't. Um, and oh yeah, funny story from the baby, the one that happened in the park, the initial one. She actually found out who I was through the person that was having the party, and she came to find me at the hospital. And I was working in outpatients at the time because I was in the allergy clinic. But I was busy with the patient, and so she left a bottle of wine for me to say thank you, like a few days later, which was lovely. But yeah, we never actually got to meet again. So yeah, it's a shame. Anyway, if you want to know what to do with choking first aid, pretty much every single one of our classes goes through it. We've got the home classes, we've got online classes, but there is a freebie as well. It's the Essential Mums Weaning Bundle. And if you visit our website, thenestcpr.com, you just scroll down a little bit, you'll find the Essential Mums Weaning Bundle, but I will also link it below. So just remember to grab your freebie. And I hope you've enjoyed this. I would really love if you'd subscribe to this podcast, because then you won't miss any updates. We're going to do these weekly. And until then, I hope you have a lovely day, and we'll speak to you next week.